Packers.
Badgers.
Bucks.
What?
Oh my.
Sports Talk Live is next. And howdy there, welcome to Sports Talk Live, a show where we'll cover all the hot news in the sporting world today. I'm Collin Talbert, this is Chase Stiener, Sam Librizzi, and why don't we just get started right away. Stay in the state of Wisconsin. The Packers get a big win over the Patriots Sunday afternoon, 25-21, or 26-21, right? 26-21.
Correct.
I'm already off. 9-3 overall, I guess. A good performance on both sides of the ball, beating a red-hot Patriots team that's won with 7 games in a row now, so any one of you guys, what were your thoughts on the game overall?
I thought this game spoke volumes about the Packers. Not only offensively, we expected a lot from them, but defensively as well. Our offense didn't do so hot at the start of the game, especially in the red zone after Aaron Rodgers got his hand stepped on. And we had to settle for a couple field goals, which is going to worry any Packer fan. You can't take your foot off the gas against those Patriots, and yet our defense stepped up and controlled Tom Brady, controlled their running game, and they really did a nice job.
Yeah, I'd say it was a great game, both sides actually.
Oh, yeah.
But the big thing was the defense for the Packers that pulled through, I thought. If you look at the stats, Brady and Rodgers almost had similar games, you'd say.
Mm-hmm.
Brady was 245 passing yards. Aaron Rodgers had more passing yards with 368, but both 2 touchdowns and similar QBR rating. It's just that Packers played better at home this time. The defense was the big key, I think, that came through.
And the thing that I noticed, too, was Aaron Rodgers had a lot of time to throw the ball. If you give Aaron Rodgers all that time to throw the ball,
yes.
I mean, line was giving them 5-6 seconds of play. I mean, what do you guys think of the offensive line play? If they keep playing like they're playing right now, and like I said, giving Rodgers all this time, he's going to threat defenses, even with a defense of the caliber as the Patriots secondary, who might be one of the best secondaries, if not the best secondary.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that the Packers did, or Aaron Rodgers especially, did absolutely wonderful in regards to dealing with what their defensive scheme was. Patriots went right out there and took away not only Jordy Nelson, but they took away Randall Cobb as well. If Jordy doesn't have that one catch at the end of the first half, he essentially didn't do a darn thing that whole game. And yet they were still able to get the ball to Devontae Adams, still get the ball to Eddie Lacy. Even Jonathan Starks got some carries. Yeah. They look good. They look very, very hard to beat, especially at home.
Yeah, that was the big key for Devontae Adams to come up and step up with 121 receiving yards. You needed that from somebody else that you knew was going to get a lot. The other receivers were going to get covered hard,
Oh, yeah.
Nelson and Cobb were going to get covered, just as hard as anybody else. They tried different schemes, bringing Cobb in the backfield, try to run around like that, but you had to find somewhere else to go, and they found that with Devontae Adams this game and the run game.
Absolutely. And then on the other side of the football, too, you've seen the switch of Clay Matthews or Dom Capers kind of using them a lot more all over the field and using a lot of them inside linebacker spot. And ever since then, the last 2 games, this run defense has looked pretty decent. I mean, looked pretty good against a couple, 2 explosive offenses. Well, Minnesota, I guess you can count them as an all right offense. But I guess what do you think of the Dom Capers switch, and how do you like that? I guess
I like the switch a lot. Actually, it's helped this defense become, I guess, almost gain an identity in a way.
Absolutely,
trying to fix the run defense, and that's what they've been doing there. I'd say the big thing though that for this game was Barrington coming in and stepping up big. I mean, he led the team top 3 in tackles for this game on Sunday. So without his help, it helps a lot with what they're doing with the switching up with Matthews coming in the middle.
Oh, absolutely. And truthfully, it makes that defense, like you said, has a personality now, and they become a lot more dynamic. With Clay in the middle, he all of a sudden, that run defense is something to be reckoned with, and it also makes you account for Clay Matthews a little bit more as opposed to just a pass rusher. Now you got to look at him as somebody who's also going to be a force in the run game as well, which is huge for the Packers.
And then also they kind of go into that 4-2 dime look, bringing in the extra D-back. Sam Shields got hurt right away, and how Devon House played. Pretty much the whole game. He did give up that 1 touchdown, I think, to LaFell, but I think the secondary played well, and that's really the strength right now. How about Ha-Ha Clinton-Dix making that play on Gronk was very impressive. I thought Gronk was going to catch that. That was one of the most athletic plays I might have ever seen if he would have caught that.
Absolutely.
Back to the offensive side of the ball. Aaron Rodgers, though, as Stephen A. Smith would say, is a bad man.
Bad man.
Through 12 games so far, 3,255 25 yards, 32 tutties, 3 interceptions, a 118.6 rating. If you look back to his MVP season in 2011, he had 45 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, threw for 4,500 yards, and a 122.5 rating. I know J.J. Watt is having a phenomenal season, not taking away anything from him. But can anybody else win the MVP right now other than Aaron Rodgers, how he's playing? I mean, he hasn't thrown an interception at home since 2012, I think.
2 years today.
2 years. So,
Jeez,
what do you guys think about A-Rod for MVP?
Go ahead, Sam.
I'd say it's a lock right now. The only second person closest would be J.J. Watt, as you brought up. J.J. Watt's having a great season, 11.5 sacks, 3 receiving touchdowns from the offensive end. He's doing everything for that team right now. Texans aren't that great of a team, though. So usually when people say MVP, but they like to see the team as well, the best player on that team.
Right.
But Aaron Rodgers is that right now.
Right, and like the thing about an MVP is somebody not only that's just the most valuable player on their team, but it's what they do for their team. It's what they do for that team. J.J. Watt does a lot for that team, but he doesn't get that team wins single-handedly like Aaron Rodgers. And like they say in college, they have a Heisman moment. Every player that's running for the Heisman, every player in the NFL has like an MVP moment. And I think this last weekend showed Aaron Rodgers has that MVP caliber yet again. When they put the ball in his hands on that 3rd and 4 at the end of the game. That shows right there he completed the pass in a window about the size of a nickel. That shows right there that he had his MVP moment, and that guy will hoist that title and that trophy over his head at the end of the year.
That's a good point,
in my opinion.
Yeah, so he's so fun to watch, bouncing around in the pocket. I mean, when you give him time, like I said, he's going to thread defenses apart. I mean, you look at the throw to Richard Rodgers, that touchdown pass was right on the money too.
Nuts.
The Jordy Nelson, I mean that was a good throw. The one time he did beat Revis, which Revis played pretty good the entire game, but. Rodgers, just his arm strength and his accuracy and his decision making is just incredible. I don't know if I've ever seen it. Somebody said Aaron Rodgers equals Andrew Luck plus Peyton Manning.
I would be okay with that.
All right, well, moving on. Staying in football, the Wisconsin Badgers win the Big Ten West with the come-from-behind win against Minnesota. Joel Stave, a big performance for him, 215 yards. And 2 touchdowns and didn't turn the ball over. What? Yes, that's right. Joel Stave.
Unbelievable.
A big game for the Badgers. Melvin Gordon, a quiet 150 yards and 1 or 2 touchdowns there. So what was your overall thoughts on this performance besides the first half? Really good second half, I guess. What were your overall thoughts on the Badgers' performance?
I think they came out a little slow, but you don't have to be an expert to figure that out. I do think that this game demonstrated a lot of toughness with that team. They came out really flat at home. In a big momentum game like that where, the axe is at stake, they stood up, shook off their bumps, and came out in that second half and stole the win right away from the Gophers at home, keeping it 11 years in a row now. I think it shows that this team has a chance to win that Big Ten title. Don't be surprised if they sneak into that playoff spot.
What do you think?
I think the MO for this team is just kind of grinding it out and sticking to what they know, which is running the ball. Without Melvin Gordon, as we've talked about before, this team would not be where they're at right now. He is the Heisman winner in my eye right now. And without him, they would not be 7-1 in the Big Ten and, playing in the championship game this coming weekend here, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And 2 other, big performers, I guess, in this last game. Corey Clement comes in, 7 or 8 carries, had that one big touchdown run. Had a couple other big runs. How about Alex Erickson, too? The wide receiver coming in had 6 or 7 catches for about 150 yards.
Actually passing the ball.
Yeah,
good.
Phenomenal. It made Stave look good. I don't know if it was Stave making him look good or him making
I'm sure it was that way.
And then how about on the defensive side of the ball? The one thing I know is this is actually the first full Badger game I've watched since the week 1. What about Chris Caputo? Everything that he does with them defensively moves them all over the field. What about his performance? That was impressive, too, I think.
Rock solid.
Yeah. He's the heart and soul of that defense. You can tell that he's the one that controls what's going on there. He knows what's going on.
Right. Between him and Beagle, they are a tough defense right now.
So you think a Badgers could be a dark horse of potentially sneaking in, maybe things go right into that college football playoff. Right now they have Bama, Florida State, Oregon. I think TCU is the 4th team until tomorrow. We'll see when those come out. But I guess right now, if it would end right now and no championship games, who do you think's in the 4 in right now?
Well, the 4 in right now, you pretty much nailed it right on the head. You're going to have Bama, you're going to have Oregon, you're going to have TCU, Florida State. That's where everything's at right now. But this is where the money's made right here in the championship week. And I really do think that college football has been an absolute scrambled egg situation all year, and I think that's going to continue this weekend. I think you're going to see at least 2 of those top 4 teams lose this weekend. I know that's bold, but I would not be surprised at all.
That 4th spot is what's going to this weekend's going to be what's made with that. Bama, Oregon, and FSU are going to stay where they're at, I think. Granted, something crazy happens in these games, but I think those three are going to stay for sure. On the outside, you guys look at TCU, who's probably going to sneak in there whenever they release them tonight, the rankings. Along with that, though, depending on what happens in this Badger and Ohio State game, Ohio State could sneak in there and get that 4 spot. But without their quarterback, JT Barrett playing, it might be tough. But along with that, you have Baylor and Arizona on the outside, far outside looking in, trying to get in there. Depends on what happens in all these bowl games. It's going to be a crazy weekend to see what happens in that 4th spot, which I think is going to be the one that's up for grabs the most.
And I know the committee right now is looking at Baylor, TCU have met head-to-head. They both have the same record. Yes. Both essentially in the same conference, play the same team. You know, how do you put TCU over Baylor? How does that happen? And if you're the Baylor coach, the coaching staff, what would happen if they make it before you and you guys end up with the same record?
I have no idea. That's what they have the committee for. That was the whole reason they made this committee, so they can look at, and analyze everything from offense to defense to statistics all year. I don't know. That one's going to be up to the committee. I have nothing on that.
All right, well, I think we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk some Kentucky basketball and even the Milwaukee Bucks. Stay in there.
Who knew?
Meet Sable, a domestic short hair of only 3 years. She doesn't mind roaming around. Just look at her stunning black coat. This is Chief, a Labrador mix of 6 years. He's great at doing tricks. Meet the Curious Callie. This kitty is a 1-year-old domestic short hair. She's playful and, of course, always on the run.
To find out more about adoption for these pets or others, contact the Cooley Region Humane Society at 781-4014.
Again, the number for the Cooley Region Humane Society is 781-4014. Welcome back to Sports Talk Live. We're going to play a little buy or sell, a game where I'll ask a question, and these guys will buy or sell with their answer. So why don't we first start with the Kentucky basketball team. Guys, they've started 7-0, averaging 79 points per game. John Calipari has these 2 platoons, they call them, of 5 guys in, 5 guys out. A lot of people are saying this team could beat the 76ers. Of course, we don't know, 2 different leagues. So I guess, do you buy or sell this Kentucky basketball team being the best college basketball team this year and also maybe the last 5 to 10 years?
This year, buying. The last 10 years, not buying.
Yeah.
That's what I have to say about that. This team probably just going to run away with the season this year. People say that Wisconsin could give them a run for their money. I highly doubt that. Wisconsin's going to fall out the top 5 by the end of the season, I think. Just because I think they're fool's gold.
That's what they do.
Yeah, it's fool's gold with them. But that's a different topic completely here. With the 2 platoons that you brought up, that is a big point. Either of those 5 starting crews in those platoons, all those guys are amazing players. And this team is, they may not have experience. They have 3 seniors, but they have talent, though. Mm-hmm. Top 100 players all over this team. A lot of freshmen and sophomores, obviously, but you have the Harrison twins who have experience, obviously. Mm-hmm. This team will be all right. This week, though, they have some upcoming games that are going to be tough, though. This coming Friday, they face number 6 Texas. It would be a good matchup for them. And then later in the season, an always tough rivalry matchup against Louisville, number 5 in the nation right now.
Yeah, I think they're going to be tested all year, but I buy the fact that they will be the best basketball team this year. However, I agree with you, Sam. I'm selling the fact they're the best in the 10 years. It's too early to say that yet. They're 7 games in. They haven't really necessarily been tested yet. Like Sam said, they have Texas coming up, Louisville as well. We'll see how they look coming down the stretch. And like every great basketball team, they have to get through adversity. So we'll see how those platoons look once the first injury hits them. I understand they're deep and talented, but that could throw a wrench into a squad full of young players. So let's just pay attention to that. Let's not get too high on them just yet.
The thing I guess that impresses them with me is I don't even look at the offensive side. I look at the defensive side, how lengthy they are. If you look at Willie Cauley-Stein, Dakari Johnson's even, I was saying, those guys are both wingspan over 7 foot. And even their starting lineup, the Harrison twins are both over, 6'3", 6'4". Mm-hmm. Yeah. And their length is incredible. That's what gets me. But going back to the platoon right now, real quick, do you guys think that's going to work going to the end of the season? Or do you think he's going to have to do something else where he finds the best 7, 8 guys, you think?
I think Calipari knows what he's doing, but I do think that he's going to run into that dilemma. Tough game. Which platoon do you pick, or do you just put the 5 best guys out there? I think that could be a struggle for them.
They'll ride it out and see what happens as the season goes on.
Well, let's talk some Milwaukee Bucks. Believe it or not, the Milwaukee Bucks 10-8 to start this season. 2nd in the Central, 6th, I think, in the Eastern Conference right now. Sam's just licking his lips over this one.
Finally, talk about it.
Brandon Knight, leading scorer right now, 17 points per game. They're playing really good defense. I think they're
10th in points allowed.
10th overall in points allowed. I'm going to jump right to you, Sam. What's going on with these Bucks right now?
There's a lot going on with this team. As you can see in this beautiful picture right here, these 2 young stars, 19-year-old Jabari Parker and 19-year-old Giannis Antetokounmpo. Okay. Both averaging about the same amount of points, minutes per game, rebounds, 11.9 points per game, shooting around 45%. So they're playing solid basketball, this team together. As we said, 10th in points allowed in the defense, playing really well. Brandon Knight is the leader is the star of this team right now, playing magnificent basketball. I mean, sometimes he plays hero ball near the end of games, but they're doing all right. This month right here in December, as we start, is going to be the true test for this team. Upcoming, they got Dallas twice, Miami, Oklahoma City, the Clippers, Portland, and Phoenix. And they go on a little West Coast trip here. So they're going to lose some games most likely because these West Coast teams are darn good.
Talented.
So this actually is going to show their true form. And depending on how Jason can coach this team, who I think has been doing actually a very decent job so far.
I couldn't agree more, and that was a perfect segue into what I was wanted to talk about. When I think about the Bucks, I think about a couple of words, one of which being they're playing inspired. The letter that Jason Kidd wrote to the city of Milwaukee when he was brought in to coach this team, I heard it on the radio for the first time, and I literally got chills. I'm not necessarily a Bucks fan, but it was very, very well written, and I think he meant it. And the players are playing for him. They're not playing for the money. They're not playing for all the accolades right now. They're playing for their coach, and something magical is happening over there in Milwaukee. People thought they were going to be better this year, but not by a whole lot. They gave them the 3 to 4 year window.
Yeah.
I think they have expedited that process through how inspired and well they're playing together to maybe a 1 or 2 year window. This team is going to be something to pay attention to down the stretch.
Yeah, I agree. It's just going to take some time. Don't expect them to be, going championship with next year, They'll be in the playoffs probably this year, maybe in the 6th seed, 7th, around there. But high hopes for this team. Things are looking good right now, depending on this whole stadium situation, all this stuff that's going on. Things are looking up.
And I think the important thing is they're beating teams that they should be, and they really are. They're staying close to some of the tougher teams.
Exactly.
So I guess, do you guys, you said talking about maybe the 6th, 7th, 8th seed, you think the defense is going to have to carry them, you think, throughout the rest of the season, you think, for them to get in?
They're going to have to make a trade, I think, to get some help on the defensive end and offensive end as well.
They're about one player away from really making a dent, but they're still playing very, very tough basketball.
Yeah.
All right. Well, over to the football field. Whitewater is still in the Division III playoffs. How successful that program has been the last 10 or so years. But Lance Leopold, their head football coach, just took a job at Division I Buffalo, I think, in the MAC conference. And just look at his record. He's 106-6 at his time at Whitewater. 5 national championships. Like you said, only one less loss than or one less championship than loss. So
that's crazy.
Overall, which is just very impressive, the success that they've had. I mean, I guess the question is, do you buy or sell him having the success carrying from the Division III level to Division I level? What do you guys think?
I'm going to sell it, and I know that sounds really not very courteous to him and his successes at the Division III level, but based on what Whitewater's done, I just feel like he had a ton of talent pumping in there all the time, and he didn't even really have to recruit all that much. Guys were traveling there to play football for him. Now he's going to have to take all that and lose it, take it all the way out to the East Coast, out to Buffalo, and start over. I think it's a different level for him. I think he will achieve success, but it's going to take a little bit first.
Yeah, this is sort of like a sell for me, but also in a way like a buy, kind of. It's the in-betweener for me. Because he's going to have to start over the whole recruiting process. Because people may not know who he is on the East Coast, for all we know.
Exactly.
But it's going to take time for him to maybe reach that level. I think it's a good place to go in Buffalo. He's not like, going right into like a big powerhouse and stuff like that right away. I think Buffalo might be a good spot for him to kind of start maybe there and maybe, gaining his way through.
It's a good launching pad.
I think that's what it is for him. It's just going to take time.
Yeah, absolutely, it's a huge opportunity to advance his career, obviously in that standpoint. But I was kind of a little surprised because he is a Whitewater guy. He went to school there, played football there. That was maybe the surprise that he kind of left that program with the success that it's had in the last 10 years. So
money, man.
Yeah,
it's got to be D1 money is a lot more than D3 money.
It's gotta be the money
all day.
All right. Well, let's move on to another topic. Back to the NFL. Ray Rice. who can be back in the league, I guess, now. But the big question is if a team is going to take a second chance at him. He made a statement I saw on ESPN earlier this day where he wants teams to look past everything he's done, give him that second chance, how him and his wife just had one bad day. What do you guys think? Do you buy or sell him? Do you think he's going to wear a football uniform anymore this season, or do you think he's done for this year and possibly long-term here?
I'm going to absolutely sell this 110%. I mean, the kid is talented and everything like that, but the problem that I think a lot of people struggle with this, as opposed to the Adrian Peterson scandal, is the Adrian Peterson scandal, there's no visual. I mean, there's a couple pictures, but people can get past that and move on because he's openly admitted to it and all this and that. Where Ray Rice, there is that video, and that video is heart-wrenching, and it gives you chills when you watch it, and it's something like that people are having a very hard time moving past. And I think maybe next year he will get signed to a team, but if you look at teams this year like Arizona, New Orleans, that need a running back, especially Arizona after Andre Ellington just going down, perhaps for the season, and even they're not interested. Arizona needs him, and they're still not interested just because of all the hoopla he's going to bring into to not only the stands but to the locker room as well.
Yeah, I'm selling as well. It's just it's tricky for him to come back right now to a team too, with only a few weeks left in the season. Exactly. Depending on these teams, if he was to go to Arizona, he'd jump right into there and be playing for a wild card playoff spot. Right. That's a tough, tricky position. Mm-hmm. The other side of that though is that some of these teams may not want to have him because of what happened. They don't want to deal with all that press, maybe, is what could be the case of it as well. Well,
especially with how tight all the playoff races are, both NFC and AFC this year. Nobody wants that unwanted attention, negative attention in their locker room, especially with the playoff race right around the corner.
Exactly. Well, I guess we'll find out here in the next couple days probably or so. We're going to take one more quick break. When we're back, we're going to talk some Who You Got. Stay in there. We'll be back in a little bit.
Who you got?
At the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse, surround yourself with potential. Surround yourself with lifelong friends. Step on campus and be welcomed with a friendly smile. It's just like home. Surround yourself with nature's beauty. Nestled in western Wisconsin's driftless area, it's perfect for learning. Hike the bluffs, bike the marsh, soar. Surround yourself with challenging academics. Our motto is Mens Corpus Gay, Latin for mind and body. Experience a whole education. Conduct research. Surround yourself with distinction. Surround yourself with UW-La Crosse.
And welcome back to Sports Talk. Like I said, it's time to play a little Who You Got.
Who You Got.
I'm going to ask them questions about some upcoming games. We'll see who they got in this matchup. The first one, Packers coming off a big win against the Patriots, 9-3. Taking off a surprising team, the Falcons, who had a bad year, but they're still in contention. So I guess any one of you, who you got in this game, Packers, Falcons? Let's hear it.
Go ahead, Sam.
Packers. At home. Aaron Rodgers doesn't throw a pick there in 2 years. Falcons are 5-7, leading battling for the South right now with another 5-7 team in the Saints, I believe. It's just kind of a joke in that division, but Packers should handle this, I think, pretty well.
I would agree. I think the Packers are just too talented, and Matt Ryan tends to struggle outside, especially in the cold weather. He does better in the comfort of his own home and with the dome over his head, so I think Matt Ryan's going to struggle. I do think the Falcons are going to play passionate because they are playing for a title, even though they're 5-7, so don't expect them to roll over for the Packers. I just think the Packers are too tough, both offensively and even defensively. I can't believe I'm saying that. But on both sides of the ball, they're too tough. I think they're just too much for the Falcons to handle right now.
And it's another home game, Monday Night Football, too. And one of my, being sarcastic, favorite announcers, John Gruden, doing the game.
Oh, yeah. I love John Gruden.
I do not like John Gruden.
So long as it's not Chris Collins.
This guy, Aaron Rodgers, is going to have himself a big game.
Yeah.
Boy, you got to love this guy playing football. Oh, man.
Yeah.
How big of a game does Aaron Rodgers have? He's had really success against this Falcons defense in the last couple of years. You think he shreds them apart and adds on to that MVP resume, you think?
3 to 4 touchdowns, I'd say.
I would agree. I think he just has a field day with these guys. He's gonna get touchdowns to Jordy. He's gonna get touchdowns to Randall. Devontae Adams might even get a touchdown. I think there's gonna be tutties for days, as you would say.
Tutties for days.
Tutties for days.
Real quick, who you got before we move on? Saints, Falcons. Who's going to win the NFC South? Is anybody going to win the NFC South, or are they just going to keep that blank?
Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Buccaneers.
They're still in contention, believe it or not, with 2 wins. I'm going to take the Saints. I just think they're a better team. Falcons, I think they're better personnel-wise, but they just find a way to lose football games. So I think the Saints come out on top.
I say the Saints as well. Yeah. the Drew Brees, Jimmy Graham, better team.
Yeah.
All right, well, why don't we stop talking about that and move on to college football?
Right.
Enough of the NFC South. College football championship Saturday this weekend, couple big games. Obviously, the biggest one, though, why don't we start there, the Big Ten championship game for Badger fans. Badgers, Ohio State. Ohio State, a tough loss with J.T. Parrott out for the year. Cardale Jones, the 6'5", 250-pound quarterback coming in to start over him. Is he going to have enough, you think, in the tank to beat this red-hot Wisconsin team, especially the defense, or do you think the Badgers pull this one out?
I think it comes down to how Ohio State's defense plays and how they penetrate the run. If the Ohio State's defense goes out there and makes a statement and shuts Melvin Gordon down in the first half or something like that and forces Stavi to throw the football, I think the Badgers might be in a little bit of trouble with J.T. Barrett at the helm or not. So I think it's going to really come down to our offensive tempo in Wisconsin.
I agree. It's going to depend on that Ohio State defense if they can stop the run. If they can somewhat, contain Melvin and the run game and try to make them pass the ball, as in the Badgers make them Badgers pass the ball, that might be in trouble for the Badgers. I mean, it's not like Cardale Jones is, just a guy off the street. I mean, he came to school to play, is what he says,
According to Twitter.
Yeah. So I mean, he was going to be their starter,
Exactly.
last year, this year. So I mean, he can play. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is going to be a really good game.
Right, and I think a big matchup that hopefully that front seven can get to him and get him flustered, I guess, right away early in the game, get some sacks on him. See how he does after that. Moving on now. Florida State keeps pulling out game after game after game. They play a red-hot kind of Georgia Tech team that beat Georgia last week. A good one. Georgia Tech can score points. Florida State been struggling. What do you guys think in that one?
I think Florida State wins, and it pains me to say it because I despise that team, but I think Jameis Winston's going to start slow. The game is going to be incredibly interesting, and then Florida State pulls it out at the end. There's no statistical reason I say that. It's just what they've done all year. It's ridiculous.
That's what they've been doing the whole year is, have a all right first half and then come out in the second and just light it up. Make you great games to watch. That's why I've been enjoying watching them this season. So I think that they will win this game pretty well, come out to play, well that weekend.
All right, now from the football field to the hard court. ACC Big Ten Challenge started yesterday. Big Ten won the first two games, so they're up 2-0. Some big games tonight, some big games tomorrow. Obviously the big one, Badgers, Duke. What's the key to the games for that one? Who wins it, why, and how?
I'm just going to say the Badgers because I'm pulling for them. I think it's going to be a crazy good game. I just think Frank Kaminsky is too much for anybody in the country to handle, maybe besides Kentucky. But outside of them, I just see him going off, having a great game.
Sam's shaking his head over there. What do you think?
I don't know what the hype is with Frank Kaminsky. He's really good.
He's the man.
But if you get a big body on him, he doesn't know how to handle that. When they played Georgetown this past weekend, granted, Georgetown center, that guy was huge. They bodied him, and Frank didn't know what to do, really. So it all fall on Nigel Hayes, who I absolutely love, best player on that team, I think, and Sam Decker, who, say what you want about him, he's going to be the big key in that game tomorrow night, I believe. But I think that Duke might pull this off, possibly. They're very young, but it's going to be a really good game, I hope.
This game's at the Kohl Center, correct?
It is.
I think that's another factor as well.
Yeah, so I think in the big matchup, it's going to be exciting to see Okafor versus Kaminsky there.
Oh yeah,
that's what it is.
I think the two guards too. When you got Quinn Cook, and was it the freshman? I can't think of his name right now. Versus Trayvon Jackson, Bronson King, Josh Gosser. I think that'll be the X factor too.
Experience in that guard position.
Some other games. There's a lot of other good games. Syracuse, Michigan, Louisville, Ohio State, North Carolina, Iowa, Illinois, Miami. I guess any of these other games jump out to you guys that you're excited for?
I'm excited to watch Louisville and Ohio State play. Talk about the epitome of Big Ten ACC Challenge. You got Patino coming in. Ohio State's a classic, tough Big Ten team. I think that's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
I'll go off the radar, I guess you could say, of a game that might be people may not be interested in, but they want to watch North Carolina, especially. But North Carolina and Iowa, I think might be a fun game to watch. Iowa wasn't a joke last year. They were actually a pretty good team in the Big Ten. They made a decent run in the tournament and stuff like that. They have a lot of good players returning back. It might be a fun game to watch. I mean, North Carolina is young, kind of, they're figuring each other out. This should be an interesting game to watch.
And also you got the Syracuse zone versus the Michigan good guards and Levert and Irvin and Walton too. I think that'll be exciting.
Yeah.
Okay, real quick, who wins it? What do you think?
I think Big Ten wins it this year.
Big Ten wins it this year?
I think so.
Probably.
All right, well, that is all the time we have today. It's been a great show, fun time with you guys as always. Tune in, I think, at 4:30 for afternoon delight, I believe, and then also Thursday for our final newscast at 4:30 as well. But that's all the time we have for you today. Have a good night, everybody.